define two very profound words in Sanskrit called Sat and Asat, which are very deeply related to the body, mind, and soul. What is Sat and what is Asat? This is a big philosophy in itself. In fact, I would not call it philosophy, it's a science. And you will see when I speak that it is actually a science. Now, Sat means the existence which is immutable, which is permanent, which is stable, and which is abiding, which remains all the time. And Asat means the existence which keeps changing, which is subject to destruction, which ultimately is destroyed, which is mutable, which changes. So this is the basic definition of Sat and Asat. So in our quest for spirituality, we must know what is Sat and what is Asat. Now let us start with the human body. What is human body? When a person dies in India, we say that he has left his body, deha tyag diya. And when we talk about ourselves, somebody asks me, what is this? I will say, this is my body. So there's a difference between my body and me. Me is not my body. There's somebody else which is me, to which the body belongs. I can say, this is my glass. Something like this, this is my body. So body belongs to whom? Let's go back to the origin of the human body, how we originated in the womb of our mother. With a small drop of semen, a body develops. How? A most sophisticated machinery ever created. How it happens? It happens because the soul enters the body at the time of conception. Without the soul, body cannot develop into this. You can do all scientific experiments, whatever you want to do, the body cannot develop into the body as we are without entry of soul at the time of conception. So as soon as the soul enters, then the body starts evolving and developing. And then we see how the body changes. Body is subject to change. The science also accepts it, that we have some 73 trillion cells in our body, and millions of them die every day, and millions of them are created every day. If you look at body, we are not this, the body doesn't remain the same even for a second. It transforms. But in the broad sense, we see that a child becomes adult, adult becomes youth, youth becomes old, and then we die. So we see the visible change in the body. But still, Swamiji remains Swamiji, Gauri Shankar remains Gauri Shankar, you remain, Karoi Ko Vach remains Karoi Ko Vach. Why? Why it happens? What is the secret? Why it happens? Why we remain the same despite the reconstruction of the entire body within 3 months, within 2 months? That is what science says. If you look at from another angle at the body, for example, when we sleep, deep sleep, we are deep sleep, at that time the body does not exist. Nothing exists for us. Not even this world, not even your bed on which you are sleeping exists for you. Everything disappears completely. Then what exists that time? What exists is only the soul. At the time of deep sleep, you can realize it happens to us every day. In the night when we have deep sleep, nothing exists. So that is why this entire physical world, which is subject to change, this table, this glass, this, my body, anything physical which you can see and touch and feel, is called Asat. because it is subject to change, it is subject to destruction. It is not permanent, and therefore it is asat. It is also called maya, in another words. Maya is also a larger philosophy, but it is closely related to the definition of asat. Then the question arises, what is sat? Now sat, as I told you, is the universal soul, Paramatma, God, whatever name you give him, is the only sat in this world. When that sat enters into our body, then the body develops. And when that sat leaves, when we die, that sat leaves our body and body becomes corpse. It's no longer a body. It's a corpse. It is not even able to sustain itself for 2 hours. It starts decomposing itself. So at the time of death, the soul leaves. At the time of conception, the soul enters the body. That is why in Vedantic philosophy, it's not philosophy, Vedantic science, in fact, I would like to call it. It is a very profound science. There are 3 basic elements that constitute this universe. They are called Brahm, Jeev, and Maya. Now, Brahm is the universal consciousness, universal soul, or the whatever, almighty, whatever you call him, who is existent everywhere. It is his existence which makes this world possible. Then the Jeev is the Jivatma, the part of the universal soul which exists in our heart. That is called Jeev or Jivatma. This remains in every living being, whether it is an animal or an insect or a human being. This is there in every living being. No living being can be living unless that part is there in that body. So that is called Jeev. And Maya, as I told you, rest of the physical existence is called Maya because it is subject to change, it is subject to destruction, it is never stable, it is not abiding, it is constantly undergoing change. Even this wood, it looks solid to you, but it is undergoing chemical changes inside. You leave it for a few years, it will die on its own. You leave a strong metal, iron, after some years it will decompose and die because there are mutations inside the metal itself. They keep changing. And therefore, they are subject to what we call Kal. Kal is the time. Everything which is subject to Kal or time is called Asat, and that is Maya. So now we come back to the body, mind, and soul. Look at the human body now, how it is made of, what it is. If we just think little bit inside ourselves, do some introspection, we will realize that this huge big body, which is the gross one, biggest one, of which we are always proud of, we try to, put best clothes and best makeup and, whatever, is the least powerful of the entire human system. This big body is actually controlled by small senses, 5 senses of action and 5 senses of perception. If those senses do not exist, you can imagine what is the state of body. If I cannot hear, if I cannot see, if I cannot smell, if I cannot taste, the body is like a vegetable. So this big body is controlled by these small 5 senses of perception and 5 senses of action. But the senses are again the weakest part of the body. The body is like a vegetable, but the senses are, controlling it, but they are the weakest part of the body. The senses are controlled by your mind. None of your senses will work unless your mind is there with that particular sense. You are all sitting here, I am talking, you are hearing, but you will not listen to me unless your mind is there with me. There are many things in this room, you will not see all of them unless your mind is there. So the mind controls each one of our senses individually. Any action, any perception is not possible without association of mind and the sense. So that is why mind is also called the 11th sense or the super sense. And where does mind exist? We don't know. Nobody knows. The science has not been able to find out where it exists. It is such subtle, thin existence which you can't see, you can't touch, you can't hear. It does exist somewhere. So the senses which are small but still you can see them, mind you can't even see. And it controls your senses and your entire body. Now mind is very volatile. You see, mind is the fastest traveling thing in the world. In a second it can reach Washington, third second on the moon, fourth second in Budapest, and fifth second in London and New Delhi, or any time. There's nothing which can travel faster than mind. So it's not only fastest traveling, but also emotionally very volatile mind. It can make you cry in a second. It can make you laugh in a second. It can make you full of love in another second. So it is very volatile in many senses, many ways. So how do you control this mind? This is the biggest exercise which Indian saints had done in past. Controlling the mind. How do you control it? We'll go to that subject later on, but let me go to the another layer of the human body. We are talking human body now. So we started with the body and then the senses and then the mind. Now one control which lies in our body is intellect. We have this power of intellect which has been given to us, which is even superior to mind. The mind is volatile, therefore the intellect comes into picture. Oh, you should not do this. This is not legal. This is not ethical. This is not good for your health. The intellect continuously keep telling your mind. You feel like smoking, the intellect will say, no, it's not good for your health. And you want to slap somebody, no, this is not right. I may be punished for this. So the intellect comes closely interacting with the mind all the time, which is higher than the mind. So this is one control we have straight away with us to control the mind. And intellect is where? We don't know. It's even more subtle than the mind. Even more subtle than the mind. And even beyond intellect, there is a thing called Chit and then Atma. When you are in a state of dilemma, that many times all of us face that dilemma. You don't know what should be done, what is right, what is wrong. Every day we have this dilemma in our lives. There's not a single day when we do not have this dilemma in our life. Our intellect fails. Our intellect is not able to answer those questions. Then what happens? Then the inner voice comes. Oh, this is what my heart says, I would do this. Where does that inner voice come from? That comes from the human soul, or the chitta, the upper part of the soul. So the chitta and soul are the highest layer of human constitution, as has been explained by the Vedic science in the past after deep analysis and research. And you can feel it yourself. It is not something which is hidden. You look at yourself and you will realize that big body is helpless without senses. And senses are helpless without the mind. It's the mind which controls. And mind is always interacting with your intellect. And intellect fails. Every day it fails. Each one of you must have realized this, that it fails. And then you have to seek help from your inner voice, which comes from your soul. So this is the constitution of the human body and mind. But all the constituents of the human body except the soul are again asat. As I mentioned to you, they are physical, They are subject to destruction, subject to change. The only thing which Sat, which remains perpetually there, is the soul. And the soul is the Sat part of our body, and we are blessed to have that. Now, you would also realize in this analysis that the more powerful part becomes more subtle. You can't see it, you can't touch it, can't feel it. The big part which you can touch and feel is not that powerful. The more subtle it becomes, more powerful it becomes. Let me give you another example to explain this. For example, food is very essential for us to eat. Food is gross, but it's important for us to eat. But more important than food is water. Without food you can live maybe for a month, 2 months. But without water you can't live even for a few days, which is less gross than the food. And even more subtle is air. Without air, how many minutes can you live? We don't even feel where the air is, but it is more powerful. But we don't recognize it because we don't need to work for it, you see, unfortunately. If you have to work to get air, then everybody will be working for that. So it has been given by us, by the Almighty in plenty. But it is so subtle that the more powerful it becomes, more subtle it becomes. And even more powerful than air is the space. A space which is away. If there's no space, we can't exist. Nothing can exist. We take it for granted because it is there. But you ask a person who is in a prison for a few days, or if you are crushed between two walls, what happens? Finished. The space, we take it for granted. So by these examples, the idea is to prove scientifically that the more important and more powerful elements in this universe are more subtle. Most subtle, more powerful. More gross, less powerful. That is why the highest layer of human system, the soul, is the most subtle. You don't feel it exists. You mind, still you feel it exists. Intellect you feel. Soul you don't feel. And because that is the most subtle part and most powerful part. No human being, no living being can exist without existence of the soul. And this is very apparent. The modern science also knows that at the time of death, something leaves our body. They don't know what it leaves, how it leaves, because it is beyond perception of human senses. Human senses are not good enough to understand that part. And we will never be understand that part because human senses are material and the soul is spiritual. The soul is Sat. Senses are Asat. So you cannot judge Sat with Asat. It's not possible. There is another theory to explain to that. But let me also explain this part in a different way, which we also feel every day in our life, but we don't observe it. We are in the waking state now. We are all awake. We are talking, listening, doing things, working here and there. That is called waking state of body. In this waking state of body, we live. We think this is the only state of body. We think so, but this is not true. As soon as you lapse into a sleep, you have dreams. You get into the dream state of the body. And in the dream state of your body, your mind creates a new world, a world of its own. Where it comes from, we don't know. It comes from somewhere. And you live in that world as an actor. You work, you talk, you listen, you do everything what you do here in the dream state also. And you believe that this is the true state of life at that time, in the dream. You get to know that it was a dream only after you wake up. But in that state, you feel that, yes, this is the life. This is the way the life is. And the same thing happens when we are here. Here we feel that this is the true state of life, like the dream state when you are in the dream. But that is the part of Maya we'll discuss in some other time. I don't want to go into that detail right now. But let's talk about the third state of body, which I just mentioned about deep sleep. In the deep sleep, both the dream state and this state all disappears. This world doesn't exist for you. So these are the three states which have been given to us by the Almighty to explain the existence of the world. The true existence of the world is actually the state of deep sleep, when this world does not exist for you, but you exist still. You exist because you have the soul inside, which is a Sat. Without soul, you will not exist after the dream, after the deep sleep. And when you get up from the deep sleep, you feel invigorated, you feel better, you feel blessed. Ask those people who are not able to sleep, they keep taking tablets all the time. Ask them what is their state. The deep sleep is a bliss. Why? Because there you are pure. You are pure, you are away from all this world. That is the pure form of human being. That is why Krishna said in Bhagavad Gita that everybody exists forever. He existed forever and you exist forever. Nobody ever dies because the soul exists forever. The soul is beyond destruction, beyond change. He said that soul cannot be destroyed with weapons. It cannot be destroyed with fire. It cannot be destroyed with water. And it cannot be destroyed by any other means. The soul is indestructible and beyond change. That is why it is called Sat. Now, the soul and body, the relationship between the soul and body is that body is the host for the soul. It's like you live in a house. The soul lives in this house. This is a house for the soul to live. The soul and body relationship is basically host and guest. The soul is a guest for a while, for 50 years, 100 years, as long as we live. When the body becomes weak, it leaves the body and goes elsewhere, takes another body. It's like this cloth, your cloth become torn, we keep it away, throw it away, we put on new cloth. Same way, the soul throws away this body and takes a new body. This is how the body and soul relationship works. Now, with these examples, these are real life true examples. These are not philosophical talks. These are not fabrications. This is a pure science which you can feel yourself. The body, mind and soul, this is the relationship between them. Now, what is the objective of human life? Of course, we are all humans. We all have desires. We all want to do things. We all want to, achieve either wealth or fame or something. All of us have that. That is inherent. That's another philosophy why we have desires. The desires we have because of three basic attributes of nature. You see, it has been explained that the human soul becomes into human entity when it comes into contact with the nature. Now, what is nature? Let me explain briefly that for 2 minutes. You see, when the universe was created by the Brahma, or you can give any name, you can call him Christ, or you can call him, whatever name you feel like, Abraham or Allah, but Brahm, the supreme power. That is how it has been named Brahm in Upanishads and in Vedic philosophy. Because it expands infinitely on its own. That's the basic meaning of Brahm. Now, when the Brahm created this physical universe, the first thing he created was Akash, or space, or ether. It's difficult to name or translate it in English. In Sanskrit, it is called Antriksh or Akash. That is the space which exists, empty space. The first thing which was created. And from the space, air was created. That is the order of creation. You will see the order of creation, the most subtle part first, and then slowly, slowly it becomes gross. You will see that. The second part was the air. And the third part created was fire. Movement of the air created fire. From the fire came water. You say fire and water, they don't get along well, but the fire created water. And this is, the science also accepts this part, because they say that the earth was a ball of fire at one stage. This is what science teaches. And then it became into total water, and then it became into earth. This is told by the Vedic science long, long time ago. That from the space came the air, from air came the fire, from fire came the water, from water came the earth, and from earth all the plants and herbs which came, which is a food for us. So this is how the order of creation exists in the world. And this has been explained scientifically in the Vedantic philosophy. Now, how this world is related to us, that is the question I wanted to mention. Firstly, each one of the 5 parts of the creation is directly related to the human body. Our sense of hearing is related to Akash, to the Antariksh, to space. It's directly related to that. Our sense of touch is related to air, directly. This is a direct relationship between the two. Our sense of sight is related to fire. Fire is a bigger context. Sun is a symbol of fire, but not fire itself. Fire is larger than sun. You see, the fire exists everywhere, but we don't know. You just put 2 things together, fire starts coming in, but it exists everywhere. So the fire is related. As soon as the sunlight decreases, our eyesight start, having problem. You can't see things beyond a point. And in the dead of the night, you can't see anything. So it's directly related to the fire. And then the taste, the sense of taste is directly related to water. Water and taste directly. All tastes come from water, whatever you taste. And then the sense of smell is related to earth. All smells originate from the earth. So this is how the body and universe is directly related. We are in ourselves a part of the universe. This is one element which I wanted to tell, that how the body is related to the, closely related to the universe. Then we were talking about the desires, why they happen. Now, desire is the most difficult part to talk about and explain. All of us have desires. We want to earn a lot of money, we want to have more cars, bigger house, we want to travel around the world. People, variety of desires. If you have one house, you want to have 10 houses. If you have 10, then you want to have 10 different parts of the world. Then you want to have your own aircraft, you want to have your own ship. These are never-ending, infinite process. Why? And what is the cause of desire? The cause of the desire has been explained by Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita very, very clearly. It is, I think, chapter 14th, which explains in detail that there are 3 trigun, they call it trigunmayi maya. That is the Sanskrit word. But there are 3 attributes of the nature which are inherent in the nature. And these 3 attributes are called Sattvic, Rajasic and Tamasic. Sattvic attribute is the desire to learn, desire to help, desire to do good things in life. That is the desire which originates from the Sattvic attribute of the nature. But this is also a desire. This desire boosts your ego. Oh, I'm a better person, I'm a learned person. It boosts your ego. This is also desire. Then the second desire is the Rajasic desire. Second attribute is the Rajasic attribute. Rajasic attribute is a result-oriented attribute. You want to do things to get something directly. Okay, you want to produce something so that I get it. It's a what you call a passion for doing something for results. I'll get either earn money, or I will earn fame, or I will become, a large industrialist, or I'll become innovator, a scientist, the desire to have something, and for that reason you are doing something. So your action is driven by your desire to get something. That is the Rajasic tendency. And the third tendency is Tamasic. Tamasic tendency is, arrogance, false ego. You don't know much, still you presume I'm the greatest guy in the world. So it's what you call pramad in Sanskrit. It's very difficult to define this word pramad and tamas. But it is basically arrogance, false ego, and you are in the darkness, but still you express your ego. That is the kind of thing. So these are the three attributes which are inherent in the physical nature. And when the human soul, the Jivatma, gets into contact with the physical nature, you get all these three attributes in each one of us. This is how it has been explained. So each one of us have this desire. Actually, the example given is that fire is always covered with some degree of smoke. There is no fire which does not have smoke. Similarly, all human souls are covered with some degree of these attributes. The degree of attributes will differ from person to person, but it is invariably there. There is another example given is that in the embryo, the body of a child is covered with what is called with the embryo. Similarly, the human soul is always covered with these three attributes of nature, and that's why we have desires. And we have desires of three varieties, or mix of three varieties, combination of three. That's why you see some good people, you see people who are passionate doing things, very enterprising, very innovative. You also see people who are basically in darkness and very arrogant and very, that these varieties come from these three attributes of nature, and that is the origin of our desires. And the desires are the root cause of our stress, of our problems, of our restlessness, of our lack of peace. This is how it has been explained. If you minimize these desires, you have to have there's a difference between needs and desires. Human being needs. We need certain things. We need food to survive. We need clothing to wear. We need some sort of habitation to live in, because this is a basic need. But there's a difference between need and desire. Desires are beyond the needs, and they're infinite in nature. You get one, you will desire another one. I know people in my own friendship circle who used to be on the bicycle, and they desire to have a scooter, and then they desire to have a car, and today they have 10 cars and they want to have their own jet. So these are infinite process. Now you have to understand that this physical world cannot give you the happiness you are looking for. The physical world, whatever amenity you have, will not give you the happiness you are looking for, because the nature of desires is infinite. Once you get one, you will desire for another one. So you have to look for happiness in your soul, not in the physical world. The physical world will not be able to give you what you are looking for, the peace or the happiness. The true lasting happiness cannot come from the physical world. And that is where it is called asat again. The physical world is asat. It's maya. It gives you an illusion of happiness. When you acquire, for example, somebody becomes president of a country, he feels he's very powerful, but after that he's not happy. You go and ask the president himself. He will say, no, it's not enough. I should become president of USA. Obama is more powerful than me. Then he'll say, oh, no, not Obama. I should become emperor of the entire world. And once you get the entire world, then you say, no, no, I should become Brahma, I should become the creator of the universe. It never ends. Physical world, the desires will never end. This is one lesson we must understand. It is infinite and it is elastic. It keeps expanding. And it has multiple branches. You get one dress and you say, oh, this is okay, let me go take another one. You go another one, oh, this is, you wear 1 or 2 days, it's fine, let me get another one. So you keep doing this. Then you say, no, this dress is not good enough. Let me get a dress made of, some ornaments or some stones or some, something else. So these desires are infinite. And those desires which are fulfilled by the physical world will not be able to give you happiness. Happiness lies in the soul and in the Sat. To realize what is Sat in us is to realize the soul. To realize that invisible, intangible part which is the most powerful. Because of that we are alive, we are human being. We must realize that and we should look for that to get real peace and happiness. So I will end here, and if you have any questions, I will be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Gauri Shankarji. Now he has limited us. No more desires. And other way he has freed us till Brahma Loka. Brahma Satya, Jagat Mithya.
Jagat Mithya. Brahma Satya Jagat Mithya.
So, if you have any one questions, you are welcome to ask questions only, because many have to go. And next time, please, all cars which is parking here remove, because the sun is reflecting directly on our eyes. Thank you very much, the organizer. Now the clouds came, Mahaprabhuji said some clouds. Any question, please? Yes, stand up, please.
I think you will help yourself. Everybody has desires, as I told you, that is the way that we are made. The 3 attributes of nature which I told, they exist in everybody. Lord Krishna himself said that they exist as the smoke exists with fire. The degree differs. Now, in order to overcome that or to limit, you have to look for your soul. You have to find pleasure in the soul, happiness in the soul. Now, how to do that, that's I won't be able to explain you briefly in this session now, but we can talk about that at some stage. You have to start doing introspection. You have to look inwards. Your senses which are designed to look out, you have to divert them inside the body and look inside your body. And then the process will reverse. You will find that you are getting happiness without looking for it outside. The senses have to be diverted inside. That's one of the most important element of looking happiness inside. And it happens. It is not easy. It's a difficult task, but it can happen.
I have a question.
Here, Swamiji.
Why does the soul encounter with nature and the 3 gunas at all? Why is it happening at all?
This is the way the physical world created. If you don't have physical world, the soul always exists in non-physical existence. Like the Brahma exists in non-physical existence. But when the Brahma created this physical world, he created these conditions to keep us entangled and occupied in this physical existence. That is why it is called Maya. We remain entangled into this. He wants us to remain like this in the autopilot mode. We keep running the world automatically. If we don't have this desire, the world will stop running, you see. Then the Brahma will have to create another world after a while. So he has created this autopilot mode, so the world runs. Now we have the choice to defy that and get over this autopilot mode and try and link our soul with the Brahma, with the universal soul. Then we will get an infinite happiness, happiness which is everlasting. You will not have to look for a small happiness here and there once you can reach that stage. You will see some people, who are completely satisfied in themselves, because that comes when the soul is able to link with the Brahma. Then he sees everybody has the same soul. So I'm also the same soul, you see. He looks everybody as himself. And he sees himself into everybody. That is the difference. Then the conflict of the world disappears. There's no conflict between you and me, because we are all the same soul from the same Brahma. All this power struggle, all these wars and political conflicts, they all come from because of that. Once you start realizing that we are all part of the same universal soul, the soul is in me and I see the same soul in you, then the conflicts will disappear. But in order to run the world, that is not possible. So if the Brahma created this world, he has created desires, and he has tried to entangle us into those desires so that we remain in autopilot mode and continue to get birth and rebirth.
Thank you. So Brahma have some way also little desire.
No, he doesn't. He's beyond desires.
Ego hum bahut shyam. Okay, thank you, and wish you a very good journey. And Om Prakash, would you give beautiful Mala to His Excellency?